If there's one thing that looks pretty certain, after the immediate influx of two strikers arriving in the first few days of the transfer window opening, additional players have yet to arrive despite the numerous names being linked to us. I'll provide you with a full update on the latest players linked, and also provide an update on what's happening behind the scenes at West Ham with Paqueta, Fulkrug, backroom coaches, and various other things happening at the moment. Now, let's actually start with that, shall we, on what's going on behind the scenes. So, Lucas Paqueta. It's turned out he's turned up for training at Rush Green, but is now complaining of having a bad back. Pretty convenient for a player who, according to some reports earlier this week, suggested that he doesn't want to play for the club again. Let's be really honest here. This is a massive distraction for West Ham United Football Club. It's something that we simply do not need right now. It's bad enough a season as it is, we're fighting relegation, that our supposed best player, or according to Nuno, our supposed best player is acting like a sport brat. Clearly, it seems to be a ploy worked out between player, agent, Flamengo Football Club to try and strong-arm West Ham into accepting a ridiculously low offer so that the player can leave in this January window. And the latest in this sorry saga, apart from the fact that he's claiming he's got a bad back, is that Flamengo's director of football, Jose Boto, has now deleted a video he posted on Instagram of Lucas Paqueta dancing, along with a caption saying that Paqueta had accepted personal terms with the Brazilian club, and now it's all down to West Ham to agree a move. Sure, we can agree a move so long as Flamengo pay us over £40 million to get the deal done, because I don't think we're going to succumb to anything lower than that. Let's see what happens. I might be wrong. What I find really bewildering is that we all know that this is Paqueta's last season at West Ham. So why the hell has he not knuckled down to give us more memories, more favourable memories that we will fondly remember, rather than the memories which will make us kind of like really not hating him, but despising him? Shades of Arnautovic, shades of Payet all over again. Every time we have a class player at West Ham United, something seems to happen for us to always leave on bad terms. A bad back means that he's finding a way to wriggle out of getting fined for refusing to be selected for games. And it also ensures that he probably doesn't play against Spurs this coming weekend. And I say, fine, let's not pick him. We've demonstrated that we can cope without him before, and that we can cope without him again. Just how Nuno is going to deal with this is going to be really quite interesting. If Nuno bends over backwards for Lucas Paqueta, then he's not only going to lose the respect of the fans, but more importantly, or as importantly, the respect of the other players. If he gets away with this and gets selected straight away, what does that say about Nuno and the rest of the squad? And the way to handle a missing Lucas Paqueta would be the return of Matías Fernandes. He will be available for the Spurs game this weekend after overcoming a slight niggle. Play Fernandes in a more advanced role just behind Tati Castellanos, and with Potts and Magassa behind him, with a rejuvenated Somerville and Bowen either side. And that, for me, will be a midfield and attacking lineup ready to challenge any club in the Premier League. But it is our defence that continues to be a major concern. We're now aware that Dinos Mavropanos could be out for up to about a month or so. And that means the selection of central defenders is now more of an issue than ever before. Look, if Nuno is going to stick with a back four, then he's going to have no choice but to select Max Kilman and Jean-Claire Todibo as the back two pair. Because I doubt very much we're going to see Igor in the first team anytime soon again. He had an opportunity to play in the FA Cup against a championship team and didn't even get selected for that. However, if Nuno wants to adopt a back three or a back five, whichever you prefer, then his options are going to be really limited. He can use the inexperienced Airidas Golombekis from the academy, who has been training with the senior team for most of this season. But how much of a risk would it be to throw him into a Premier League game? He could also recall another academy player, which is Caelan Casey, who is getting much less game time in the Championship at Swansea than we'd hoped for. But just like Golan Bekis, the thing's the same. He may be a bit more advanced than Golan Bekis, but again, would you risk throwing him in the starting 11 of a Premier League game? Or the safer option is that we can use Aaron Wan-Bissaka as the right-sided centre-back of three, alongside Todibo and Kilman, and then put Kyle Walker-Peters as the wing-back on that right side. But it would be even better if we can actually get ourselves another centre-back in this transfer window who could play alongside Todibo, thus dropping Max Kilman altogether. Now, sticking with our defence, I'm sure you've read the story today that apparently Mads Hermansen wants out of the club, with Lazio being showing an interest. Look, it won't surprise me if this were to happen, given that we're in the market for another keeper. Hermansen played okay at the weekend against QPR, and although it was a slightly more assured performance than the ones he had earlier in the season under Potter, I didn't really see anything from the young keeper to suggest that we ought to hold on to him and give him another chance. Over on the other side of the field, and although it's not our problem, I'm sure you've all heard by now that Nicholas Füllkrug is injured. He's broken his toe whilst on loan at AC Milan. Hasn't taken long, has it? I asked a senior source earlier today what the conditions were of Füllkrug's loan deal to AC Milan and whether they could actually stop it short and send him back now that he's injured. And the answer, thankfully, was no. We're kind of safe there. So this is AC Milan's problem and not one for West Ham United to worry about. But of course, there is the bigger issue, isn't it? At the end of the season, this is going to severely dent the chances of AC Milan wanting to sign Füllkrug on a permanent deal at the end of the season. And whilst we're on what's going on in the background, we hear today that Nuno is about to bring in another backroom member of staff to join the coaching team. Paco Jemez is joining the team, or the backroom team. He was a central defender in his playing days, having played for Deportivo La Coruña, Zaragoza and Rayo Vallecano, amongst others. He's also coached in Spain, Mexico and Iran. Now, look, I'd imagine that given that he was a defender, he's coming in to be part of the defensive coaching setup. But even more importantly, what this appointment suggests is that the board are fully backing Nuno. They're not only backing him in the window, but they're now bringing in additional coaching staff for him. Look, why coaching staff didn't happen when Nuno first arrived, I don't know. All these various stories that apparently they were still all in work, still at Nottingham Forest, etc., which is why it didn't materialise. I don't know. But at least now he's got his second coaching person, his own coaching person at the club, because the other one is Barbosa, who's the goalie coach. Okay. What about transfers? Well, the latest is that we're trying hard, as I've mentioned, to bring in a goalie and a defender. A defender makes sense. It makes sense, completely. But trying to bring in a defender halfway through the season could expedite the departure of Hermansen, as I've already mentioned. But could it also mean the end of Alphonse Areola as our number one? Now, whether you think dropping Areola as the number one is good or bad decision is a matter of your personal opinion on the player himself. But one thing's for sure is whether we get another keeper or not, we are in desperate need of more central defenders, or at least another one. We have apparently made an approach for Chelsea backup goalie Filip Jorgensen and defender Axel Disasi. This is the first time we've been linked to Jorgensen, but we've been linked to Disasi several times before. Just like Hermansen, Jorgensen is a Danish international goalie who's made one appearance for the Danish national team. He joined Chelsea in a €24 million deal back in 2024, and he's made just 31 appearances for the senior side. He's most definitely the number two to Chelsea keeper Robert Sanchez, and doesn't necessarily look like replacing him anytime soon. He's more of a long-term keeper at 23 years of age. But the appearances he's made have been mainly for Chelsea in European competitions, and he showed a remarkably composed presence in goal. His 6'4" frame is a huge plus, especially when combating for the ball in aerial duels. Chelsea are said to be reluctant to let him go, and he has a contract with the West London club until 2031. If a deal were to be agreed of around £15 million, that might be a bit of a bargain for West Ham, but another young Danish goalie. With regards to Axel Disasi, however, Chelsea may be happier to let him go, probably on a loan basis. Disasi came to Chelsea back in 2023 on a big money move, £45 million from Monaco. However, since his arrival, he's not been able to stake a regular place in the starting lineup, having made just 61 appearances over the past 2.5 years. Now, Disasi is not a player who suffers too many injuries, so it's been purely down to the various managers' choices that he hasn't played more games for Chelsea. But why is that? From what we know of him, Disasi is a dominant player, aerially dominant player, physically dominant as well, a versatile centre-back who can also play at right back. His game is built on strength, aerial presence, and proactive defending, but can also be exposed by lapses in concentration, mobility, and the occasional technical hiccup. I think we've got enough of those kind of defenders at the club already, haven't we? At the age of 27, he has a formidable presence in the air, but something we're lacking right now. He's a bit of a modern day defender as well. He's comfortable at carrying the ball out of defence, and he is versatile, as I've said, to be able to play at right back if needed. Before joining Chelsea, he came with a big reputation, and he was part of the France 2022 World Cup squad. And maybe a move for him could bode well in making sure he tries to win a place or remain in the France World Cup squad for this summer. He's been known for his leadership skills and his resilience, but his weaknesses are a factor in Premier League football. However, Disasi, for us, could be a better deal than the current centre-backs that we have. Look, his concentration and his decision-making has been questioned, and despite his frame and ability, he should be winning more aerial duels than he does. He was on loan at Aston Villa last season, and they decided that they would not pursue a permanent deal for the player. So would he be right for West Ham? I don't know. I worry that he won't be. But on top of all that, there is still the suggestion that we're in for Eric Dyer. Now, Monaco has said that they don't want to let him go. And Dyer is a player that Nuno has worked with before. Now, would he be right for West Ham? Well, his leadership skills and his experience will certainly be a big factor in trying to get our West Ham defence to be a little bit more combative than we currently are. However, that aside, we have apparently made an approach for another defender, central defender, and that's Jhon Lucumi from Italian club Bologna. Now, apparently, the story is that we've made a £13 million offer for the player, who's apparently valued at around 25 million euros. He's one of the Serie A's most reliable, low-drama centre-backs, left-footed defender, known for his composure, anticipation, clean defensive work. His main limitations revolve around recovery pace and aerial dominance, and the occasional issues defending in large spaces. At 27 years of age, he's been with Bologna since 2022. He's a Colombian international, and it's suggested that, a £13 million bid is going to be straight away disregarded, given that he is, or it's supposedly worth double that. He's got 1.5 years remaining on his contract at Bologna, and from what we know, apparently bigger teams are already sniffing around. So will West Ham United succeed in getting him? I doubt it very much. He's the sort of defender who's composed and doesn't dive into tackles, ideal for a team that is possession-based or a team that builds from the back, which we're both not really in either of those teams, are we? Look, sounds like a good no-nonsense defender that we could do with right now, but whether Bologna will want to let him go or whether the player himself will want to come to West Ham United to battle a relegation fight remains to be seen. That's the update so far. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of other stories to come over the coming days, so do look out for them. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.